All right, welcome back. I'm now a detective and work in narcotics. And in my RealCopStoriesVideos.com site, I got 270 or so stories about vice, narcotics, gangs. Some are really gross, some are funny, some are serious, some are interesting. Hope you enjoy them all. Look them all up. Okay, I love them all. They're all my babies. This is interesting. Even though I have it listed in narcotics, it was when I was working narcotics I heard about this. This is one of the stories of the 2% of all the hundreds I've given you that I heard about. Okay, I know the people involved. Okay, so one day we're waiting for a operation to go down. I'm with two other detective supervisors, and I'm one also. And they happen to be black and white. And let me tell you why. It doesn't mean in a sense now, but it'll be important in a minute. A black detective and a white detective. And we're talking about, and they both used to work Internal Affairs Division before they came here. And so we're talking about, they're telling me stories about investigating officers, corrupt officers. We don't want corrupt officers in our department. And they brought up a name of a guy that they investigated, and I went, oh my gosh, that was my train officer in 20 years ago. Okay, what? And this is what happened. I had this train officer, a Caucasian guy, very smart, very sharp. He was the top arresting officer in the division I was working. And he was my train officer for 3 of the months of the 6 that I had to be out there. And every night it seemed like we made a narcotic arrest. Okay, then he transferred out to another division, and then he went to another one in the valley because he wanted to go out in the valley. And what happened was, people arrested him, and they went to Internal Affairs and said that they had no records, and that there were white and black civilian people, arrestees, and they told him they thought that the officer was planting evidence on him. And they said that, and they went to they didn't go with their attorneys, and went with their fathers. These guys are like 20 years old, and with their dads. And they told them that they'll take any kind of test, any kind of polygraph they want, because they think that this officer is corrupt. Now, most of the time, police departments historically just kind of go, whatever, including ours. They'll say, well, we'll look into it. But when you have people come in like that, you don't have some heroin user or some cocaine dealer or wife beater that says, hey, the officer's plan. You got a couple of kids showed up with their parents, and they said, well, take any test you want. So they called them on it. They took them in downtown, and they voluntarily took polygraph tests. We have a polygrapher for our department. They volunteered to take both of them independently, took polygraph tests, and they passed. They had no record. Okay, so they were telling the truth. They had no record, and they were telling the truth. So these two guys I'm talking to, this black detective and this Caucasian detective, they said they were tasked to, they were dressed down because they were working officers, to drive around in a convertible, because this officer, my trained officer, liked to stop minority salt and pepper teams, Mexican and white, Mexican and blacks. He liked to stop those kind of people, and he was working in an area that didn't have that many of them, so he was stopping the ones that you would see out there. So it looks like that's what he was doing. So they got dope in the car. These are all sergeants, and they set up. I'm sorry, let me back up. There's no dope in the car. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself here. They had a convertible that was seized. All these sergeants went through the car with lieutenants to make sure there's nothing in the car. The officers made sure they had nothing on them, and then they just went out and drove around the area this officer was working. And sure enough, he picked them up, and they made sure they committed a traffic violation, so they'd get stopped. Okay, didn't matter. He stopped them anyway. So he stopped them, and they're jacked up, and then the officer's with a probationer from the academy. So the trained officer's doing all the work, and all of a sudden he's finding coke on the seat, packets of coke. He's finding coke in the glove box, and these guys are denying it because that's what crooks do. Well, that's okay, you're going on. So he hooked them up and took them in. Well, this whole time he's being watched, okay, by Internal Affairs and a surveillance team. So they go into the station, they book the two undercover officers in, and he's over there doing the evidence, and right in the middle of the operation, the whole world caves in on this officer. Internal Affairs walks in, 3 or 4 sergeants, they grab the dope, they grab him, they grab his partner, take the partner off to the side, they go inside immediately to the jail, get those guys out, walks them by him, saying, these are supervisors, we stung you, okay. And apparently he's put his head down, okay. Interviewed the young recruit, he knew nothing. So but they want to get statements from him. Poor guy, you want to be trained, and your partner's a crook. He's a crook, okay. And so they booked him and they went to his locker. We didn't need a search warrant for his locker because the locker's in a police facility. That's administrative search. You can just walk in there. If there's a lock and won't open, they just cut it because you don't have to. In our department, we don't. It's property of the city, property of the police department. You don't have to worry about no locks and all that crap about search warrants. Maybe now they do. I don't know. And we might have technical problems here. We doing okay? Oh, good. So anyway, so the bottom line is that they booked him. They found more dope in his locker. Okay, lots of dope in his locker, and they booked that. It booked him, and then of course he when he went to trial, they convicted him. Possession for sale, possession for all kinds of corrupt stuff, and he had no record, so they gave him probation for like 10 years. And but he lost. But on the stipulation that he would never be a police officer again, he would never do any kind of government job. And of course, the department fired him, and that was it. And you know, it was just sad to hear that. And I was stunned because he was a very sharp officer. But not stunned in the sense, you know what? We have bad cops, and if you find a bad cop, get him out. Get him out, because it makes us look worse when you have something like that. It makes our whole group look bad. And I'm glad they did it. I really am. I think it should be done. Should be done. Anyway, I'll let you go, and thank you very much for the time, and we'll see you next time. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.